Oh, good.
How should I call you? Master teacher, integrative healer, and long-time spiritual seeker?
I like that. That fits.
What?
That fits.
All right.
We need farmers and we need. I said, I wonder why she did that to me. And I said, I absolutely love being a farmer. It's part of my healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's part of what we're going to do here. This whole place is going to be focused around the kind of interaction between the kind of soil biome and the microbiome in the gut.
It's huge.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, and we're learning. It's amazing.
Like mycelium is probably our best friend in the whole wide world.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
Mushrooms are probably going to change the chemical environment of the planet. We start to use. God gave us everything, really, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
We've been given whatever we've been given everything. Great.
So do we have some people with us online? Do we know?
Oh.
Welcome. We apologize for starting a few minutes late. I'm Michael Pergola, president of the Graduate Institute. New president, I should say. We just took over at the end of last year, a new management team, really working to re-inspire the energy that originally founded this holistic center of learning and graduate education. Our goal is to provide opportunities for people to pursue their personal learning journey in a way that is heartfelt and simultaneously practical and rigorous, with a mix of knowledge of both the self and the outside world in the various professional domains where people make their life contribution and earn their living. And our goal in every one of our programs is to support people's capacity to get more deeply in touch with their passion and their personal calling. Throughout those programs, to connect to a community of learners who are dedicated to deep listening, to self, to others, and to the world. And then to sort out how to find the right livelihood based on both the personal and practical learning that they've encountered in the year or 2 years of their program. We're also offering a whole variety of events, starting a community garden, and really working to deepen our understanding of our relationships to ourselves, to each other, and to the planet that's home to us all. This is our first live stream video presentation. We have people in the room as well as online, and we're very happy to begin to use the technology in ways that really support a deepening of our relationships and does not impede them. So I'm really, really pleased to be here with my friend Ann Wilkinson, who is a longtime spiritual seeker, a master teacher, and an integrative healer, as well as a farmer. She has a great deal of experience. Her house is filled with people, children, animals, birds, and all kinds of wonderful food, and wonderful, really healing approaches. Ann has integrated East and West in a very unique way, and I think we'll have a wonderful opportunity to get a sense of not only her teachings, but also of what the experience of the Integrative Health and Healing program here at the Graduate Institute is like. She'll be initiating our cohort starting in the next few weeks, and I think you will find her presence, her teaching, and her way of explaining some very deep concepts delightful. So please welcome Ann Wilkinson.
So this group that's here with me, how many of you are touching people presently? As part of your, yes?
Part of our work, you mean?
Yes. As part, yes, presently as part of your purpose in life. It involves hands-on. So we have a room full
Hands-on
here.
healers.
Very great, very good.
Different levels.
I'm sorry?
All different levels.
Very good. So I went to physical therapy school, and then I put myself through physical therapy school back in a time when it was extraordinarily competitive. People bailed out of PT school and went on to be lawyers and doctors. It was that ridiculous, you know, it just was crazy. And I had to work my way through college and take this really heavy and very intense load with all this competitive stress also. Please come in. There's 3 seats up here. So I came out with a little bit of an attitude when I came out of physical therapy school that I had worked really hard for what I got. And when I came out of school and found out that we were going to rub ultrasound gel on people and count to 10 for them while they lifted weights, right away I was that there's absolutely no way that I have probably taken 10 years off. I said, living to be 110 now, I'm only going to live to be 100 because of what I had to do through PT school. That experience alone, PT school, I've had to have probably given up 10 years for that. It was that rough. And then I was going to come out and do something that I could probably teach a kid out of kindergarten, you know, how to do. The needle needs to be on 2.5 and you keep it moving. So right away, I was placed in a rural area because they couldn't get PTs out there. I just happened to need my last semester money to be paid for. There was a funny thing that went on with student loans way back in ancient history. And that one semester, there was a little lag. So I kind of had no choice. Do we have a choice or don't we? Free will or don't we? I always wonder. To go out in the middle of nowhere and practice physical therapy. It was in a place called Pottsville, Pennsylvania. I'm sure nobody here has heard of it. I learned how to jam jellies, how to knit. I was 21 years old and single and not happy about it at all. And then on top of that, I was going to have to do like barbaric, work. And all I can tell you, like I said, I often wonder about this free will concept. Because if I wanted to study something that had to do with physical therapy, and I wanted to study from a world famous therapist, next thing you know, they were doing their first class here, and my place I was working offered to pay for tuition. And now if I wanted to go to Europe with my friends or to a beach somewhere and party or something, it would not happen. Everybody else would be able to go, but for some reason I would not be able to go. But yet here would come this, newfangled, incredible, fantastic course, and not only would I get to go, like one time my plane was late, and the man sitting next to me asked me to go to lunch with him. And then he said, wait, I have a question for the professor. I'd never met this man before in my life. It was the first thing that he said to me. Would you like to have lunch? Yes. One moment, I'd like to ask the professor something, okay? 30 seconds later, we're being invited as like a couple to have dinner with the professor and his wife. I mean, these are world famous. It happened with John Barnes. It happened with Janet Travell. It happened with Robin McKenzie. It happened with Freddie Carlton. I was 20-something years old, out of school, it wasn't like I had something much to offer them. I have to be honest with you, at that time, that group kind of weirded me out a little bit. Because even though I knew that this very primitive physical therapy was not right, some of the people who were on the far extreme, they were playing with things that I hadn't really heard about. They would talk about energy and who was pinching the waiter's butt energetically, and they're all giggling at the dinner table. These are women that are older than me, and they're acting like little children. I was just like kind of appalled, really. And the one lady's not allowed to touch the light switches. She blows things up, whatever, you know. Now I'm one of the people who blows things up, you know. So
somehow, here you are in your 20s. You said, all this training that I suffered through, the stress of which has taken years off my life, I'm not doing this. You go out to this rural area, and then suddenly you have all these opportunities, meet these amazing people who are out at the leading edge. You think it's a little weird, but you keep going with it. And I know that's continued, because we'll talk later about how you wound up being the healer to a great spiritual teacher. But we'll come to that later. So it's an interesting story how your journey unfolded.
you know, you really have to wonder again. Here's a brick wall, and this is everything that I want to do. I'm going to be a PTA mother. I have 5 children. I'm going to do this and that. And I mean, absolutely you're not. You know, and then I would be like, this sounds so fascinating, you know, and the red carpet is just laid out. And, you know, is that free will? I tell you, that's my #1 question. Besides, what was God thinking when he made a man? But we'll say that for another time. So I really have 2 questions. I can't lie, but the one is very important to what we're talking about. No, though, speaking about men, it's interesting. One of the things I want to bring up about medicine today is that there's a duality that's happening. And, you know, for so long, does anybody mind if I stand up? I'm Italian, you know, I really use. But like, there's this crazy duality that we have going on in medicine right now. And it's funny because I have these 2 little Pomeranians, and one is black and one is white. And 2 days after I got them, and they were only this big, I had been invited to teach at a festival. And I didn't want to leave them home, but I'll hide them in the vehicle while I teach this festival. I had really no idea anything about the festival. I've never been to a festival. It's the new thing with young people. Is there anybody here who goes to festivals that knows? But anyway, it's really interesting, okay? You see every form of nose bone and hair things. And whew. So I show up, and I've got my 2 little Pomeranians, and I get out of the car to the security, and I said, look, you know, I know I shouldn't have probably brought these guys. They're going to stay in the car, but I couldn't leave them home. And the man says to me, but, oh, and I noticed the whole time I'm walking, people are going, duality, oh, duality, oh. And they're saying this. I said, well, black and white, yeah, you know, but why does everybody have the same concept? Well, when I went up to security and said, I promise I'll keep them in the car, they said, well, aren't they your props? I mean, the theme of the festival is duality. So I got really lucky. And I probably got to meet all 1,500 participants carrying around 2 little Pomeranian puppies. So, and people do amazing things around puppies, like their alter personality comes out. It was fascinating. But it was really fun to speak to young people and to talk to them about this concept that I'm going to give you about body work and how it's evolved, at least since I've been in the profession. So I'm in physical therapy school. There's no guys in the class. Well, for a guy crazy girl, this was a problem. But, you know, no, all I had to do really was study in college. I had no other choice. It was study, work, study, work. But slowly, like, 1 guy came in, and then we had 2 guys in the class, and then, you know, it was a big deal when there's 3 or 4 guys in a class of, say, 30 to 60 women. And physical therapy at one time did everything. You know, massage, respiratory, sports therapy, everything. It was only physical therapy. There was no any of these other therapies. And it was all women at one time. And it was very, like, you know, very caregiving, very nurturing, very, like, motherly kind of energy that was in that. And then the men got involved so it's, again, this duality. It's like not one thing is good and not one thing is bad. Like the movie, the play Wicked, or the book Wicked, if anybody read it. You know, everybody has this concept of the Wizard of Oz. And Glenda's so sweet, and the bad witch is so bad. And then you read the book and you watch the play and you're like, whoa. In that little teeny fraction of time, it appeared that way, but when you look at the big picture, Glenda was very self-serving and awful, and the bad witch was really so very good and was doing this humanitarian things. And so now, honestly, you guys, when we're walking this fine line in duality, this awareness that it's not good and it's not bad, in this particular moment, it may appear that way and it may not. So in medicine, while the women were giving all the care and it looked all sweet and juicy, and And then the guys came in. And we need to, the doctors know, and they can't really own physical therapy clinics because it's a conflict of interest. It's been proven that if they own a physical therapy clinic, they'll refer 10 times the amount. We can't set doctors up that way. Physical therapists must become way more established and in equal ranking with the doctors. And we only can own our own clinics, and they can't own it. And this very strange dynamics went on now that men came in. And as physical therapists, we were supposed to wear high heels, drink coffee, and direct the aides around and flirt with the doctors. We were supposed to see 55 patients a day on your high heels. Of course, you were not going to touch anybody seeing 55 patients a day. It's, Susie, can you switch the ultrasound from Mr. Jones to Mr. Smith? And then he can have the electrical, he has the ultrasound, and then she can do 10 repetitions on that, and then when he's done, he can do the 10 and she can do that. It doesn't matter if it was a knee, a back, a neck. I mean, you were a knee and you were a back and you were a neck. We knew that when you came in. We might not know your name, but you pretty much all got the same treatment. You just got the hot pack on a different body part. It gets scarier because since I was in PT school, you now have to have a PhD in order to do that. When I was in PT school, we learned massage. They don't learn it in PT school now. In fact, if a PT wants to do massage, they have to take massage therapy school. So you've got some people who have some incredible medical knowledge. In fact, they might have pushed the requirements of the amount of knowledge they have to do for PT to the point that I think that these people lack common sense and communication skills. I mean, they are brilliant behind the computer and moving outlying data points. But when it comes to really a heartfelt connection, you know, and that maybe your knee problem has absolutely nothing to do with your meniscus, and it has to do with that you're not making it for too long and you're tired. But that it's more than likely the person with the PhD is not going to get there. So then it kind of gets a little scary, and please, if I offend anybody, I apologize ahead of time. It's not on purpose. I just get a little... So massage therapists, just not very long ago, were not even allowed to say they could treat a headache or anything. They could say they relieved tension and stress. They were not even, it was illegal to say they could get rid of a headache or make back pain go away. And then pretty much overnight, in fact, I actually got cited for saying that one of my massage therapists was an expert with Parkinson's. She just so happened to be the director of the Alzheimer unit for the nursing home she worked in the daytime. But it was against the law for me to say that she had an expertise in that, and I was investigated. Luckily, no ramifications. They apologized, but they, in response to another PT making a complaint, that I actually put that in a newsletter, they had to go through the formalities. So I'm just going to give you an idea of how things have changed. To now, the only people who are really touching somebody are massage therapists. In some way, that's fantastic because somebody is touching people and they're getting results. But here's where it gets real inky, crazy, weird. So you've got massage therapists who have a certain amount of education, and because they're touching people, they're getting this much sophistication in the diagnoses that are walking in their doors. And then you've got PTs who have this much sophistication in their educational knowledge, but in order to get the reimbursement and to make their boss happy and comply and do all that, they're reduced to using this amount of skills. If you walk into a physical therapy clinic today, you'll see a great big gym area. You'll see 30 people being treated, nothing exposed. If the prescription says the neck, they'll only touch the neck. If the prescription says the wrist, they only touch the wrist. You will see physical therapy was the one profession that people never retired from. They said 80, 85 years old, they're still practicing. It wasn't one of the professions known as that people never leave. They do it till they die. It's strange if you walk into a basic, a corporate physical therapy clinic today, you'll not see anyone over 25. There's no mentoring whatsoever. They don't have to. They don't really have to know if this is a tumor causing this, if it's a bulge disc, if they've got an infection, if they've got, you know, osteomyelitis. I mean, you kind of do have to know because you could get sued. But basically, somebody in that kind of pain, you're going to do ultrasound, electrical stim, and have them lift weights 2 or 3 times. They're not going to come back.
So, Ann, you're saying that PT has become more sophisticated on the one hand, but that has been separated from the kind of hands-on, embodied connection between one human being and another, which is the real root of healing. So this knowledge is not really being applied because there's this wall between the knowing and the doing. And that's, in a sense, one of the reasons that the Graduate Institute exists, because our goal is to attempt to break down that wall and to open up new ways to do that, new programs, new certificates. And I think your experience and your work is a perfect example of what we aspire to.
Thank God. That's all I can say. So the duality, where it comes in with the duality here. Things always shift from one end of the spectrum to the other, and then they kind of come back, and then they go back, and then they kind of find that middle. So it'll find its way. You know, I could get on a political soapbox and, you know, go crazy about this or not. I mean, it's still going to end up where it's going to end up. But I just, for the people who haven't been practicing as long as I have, I'd like you to have an appreciation for what's happening. Now, what I'm about to say next could be maybe perceived as a, what do they call that? You know, when someone's like suspicious theory. Conspiracy theory. But you guys, you have to kind of look at something. And so when I was in that very first job, I started to, like, I was at Johns Hopkins before that for my clinical, Johns Hopkins, and we had to look at every little, I mean, you better, if they ask you a question about somebody's chart, you better be able to show them that you had looked at every single part, everything that you've recorded, everything better be dotted and crossed, and I mean, it was really very precise. So I come out of school that way. So now I'm reading everyone's charts back to front, and I'm noticing the people who live out in the country are, and I wish I would have documented at the time, are 80 and look 50. The people who live right here in the city, right next door to the hospital, are 50 and they look 80. The people who are right here and very conveniently located to the doctors have had up to 24 surgeries. The people who live in the country have had no surgeries whatsoever, have never been in the hospital even to have their children. The people in the city love to drink and smoke. The people in the country don't do that. And it was so clear, you guys, and thank God I learned this when I was 23, because I'm 54 and I think I'm not doing too bad because I knew that early. I'll take on any 25. No, I'm saying. Want to race? No. But I'm serious, you guys. It was so evident to me that if you eat healthy food and you breathe fresh air and you stay far away from the doctor and the hospitals, you will be fantastic. You really come in with everything you need. You're fine. But it's like once they hook you in for something, and you have to understand, I'm on both sides of the fence here. I'm a consumer and I'm a provider. But once they hook you in, you know, a perfect example, 17 years old, Mom, take me to the hospital, I'm dying. You, hospital, you don't do hospitals. I'm going to die, take me. Rolling around, passing out of severe abdominal pain. The doctors are like, let's just do an exploratory, why not? Oh, we took her appendix out while we were there. We have no idea why this is so severe of pain. That pain continues, it continues, it continues. Later on, another surgery. Thousands and thousands and thousands of body work appointments, colonics, you name it. I mean probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to find out at the age of 42 from a hair analysis that I had a gluten intolerance, a wheat allergy. And so this severe pain was not my imagination. I've had body parts plucked out. I've undergone surgeries. But my point in this only is being not for you to have sympathy on me by any means, because I've learned so much by it, and I teach people wonderful things about what from what I've learned by being in that situation. But I got hooked, you see. One person said, oh, it's this thing here, you got to come 15 appointments. Oh, no, it's not, it's this thing. Oh, but it could be that. It could be, and I've had everything. Oh, it's, demons and gremlins in there, to it's, I've had it from, this spectrum to this spectrum, being tested, ultrasounded, exploratory surgeries, to people wanting to do, and down there. It's gone. It's really gone. You can eat anything you want. That I've been told that too. It's all in your head. It's your emotions. It's your mind. Here, eat a pizza. So it's really been an interesting. So what I found, okay, what I've noticed being at Johns Hopkins at the teaching hospital and then going out here to this rural. Of course, when I was 20, I was thinking, what am I doing here? What have I done? Why did this have to happen to me? But what I know now, of course, now I can say that was so worth it, right? But you guys, I have to tell you an observation I've made. Next to that teaching hospital, there's these things, I don't know what you guys have here, but at home there's 7-Elevens and things like that. And the people who go to the teaching hospital, and their house is down the street, they use public transportation, they don't really have cars, they have food stamps, which, by the way, if you're a woman, an infant or a child, and you get the food stamps from them, you're not allowed to use it on organics. Okay, good. You stay puzzled for a minute. We're going to come back to that. Keep looking with that look on your face. I had the same one. If you'll notice, you go into that 7-Eleven, try to find something in there that doesn't have corn syrup. Try to find a bread that's not Wonder Bread. Now, before I tell you the contrast of that, know that the #1 emergency room visit is fecal impaction. So it's basically, put a glove on, let's grab that Wonder Bread out, because your body doesn't know what to do with it. We'll see you next week. Keep eating that Wonder Bread. We're not going to tell you not to eat that Wonder Bread, because the #1 emergency room visit makes a lot of money. So my point here on duality is, as long as people eating Wonder Bread and corn syrup makes 84% of our gross national product, we're going to be pumping up those GMOs. We're going to be pumping up non-organic. We're going to be pushing that all that is crap. Because I'll tell you what's interesting. Those women, infant, and children, they get their food stamps in one hand. I'll tell you what, I've never seen insurance cards come in the mail so fast. They're there like grease lightning, because you know why? They know it's only maybe a week or two, your kid's going to have a food allergy attack, or you're going to keep eating the food that we tell you to eat. You're going to need that card. So that's why we got it here real fast. That's my personal observation. I also noticed that we're not encouraging people to get out of Medicare. So my patients come in, they're like, if I get better, then what am I going to do? I get $1,300 a month. Can you imagine that? I'm going to be afraid to get better because I'm going to lose my Medicare or Medicaid, because it's either one. And I have to say to somebody, you're 35 years old. Do you truly want to be disabled for the rest of your life? I mean, is that the label you would like to have? And how tempting is it when they dangle GMO carrots? I guess when you're hungry, a GMO carrot might look good. Now, here's the interesting part. The doctors at the teaching hospital get in their little cars and they drive far away to Society Hill, Rittenhouse Square. Their little convenience store could probably only get Belgian chocolate and French bread. You're sure as hell not going to find Wonder Bread in there. You're not going to find drinks with corn syrup. They're not going to drink them. They're not going to consume them. You see what I mean? They're not going to purchase them. I don't. So the other day someone said to me, what's the best thing that we can do for our health? And again, a lot of times, you guys, when I talk, it's not me thinking first. It just comes through. And I said to them, you have to recycle. And you have to eat organic food and water. And then later on, I kept saying, why did I say the recycle thing first? What was I telling them? And then I remembered Rudolf Steiner, who created the Waldorf School, and he's probably the most incredible agricultural downloaded genius. I mean, they have to be. These men who were producing these volumes of work, Swedenborg and L. Ron Hubbard, and I mean, without a computer, you can't tell me that stuff isn't downloaded. There's no way human men can do this. Women and men could come up with that information. I just firmly believe. And then how did he know what mad cow was, what was it, 100 or 150 years ago, the documentation? Look how long it took us to figure it out. He had a complete dissertation about it. What are we doing? I mean, we're looking at walk into a physical therapy clinic, it's all shiny, chrome-plated, everything. Everybody's in suits. Oh, yeah. Who cares? Treat me on a hay bale. Get me better. I take that ultrasound gel and stick it back up your nose. I don't touch me with that stuff. You'll be wiping it out of people's hair. Ugh.
So why the recycling?
Oh, okay. So when I said, okay, Rudolf Steiner. So in Rudolf Steiner, he's the most brilliant. He knows all this stuff here. We have to listen to what he says. You have to. Too many things have been proven right. One of the things that he teaches is that compost is your connection between your physical world and your unseen world. Whether you want to call it heaven, angels, divas, fairies, however your unseen world presents to you. He says that cows have horns, deers have antlers. Deer send information through their antlers to the universe telling them what the condition is on the earth. So it goes through their hooves and out their antlers and lets the universe know, here's what's going on here. Cows not only send information, but through their horns receive information. And this is why in some cultures cows are so revered, because they have this ability to receive information from the universe saying what the earth needs. When we compost, I have to tell you, it's interesting. Just the other day, I got my days mixed up, and I thought it was Thursday, trash day, and it was Wednesday. And I said, I had 3 strapping boys here last night, and I have to take out the trash. And I'm, collecting everything and putting it in until I realized it was the wrong day. I was real happy when I realized it was the wrong day, but at first, it had been a little while since I had done that. And my daughter's home now. And I got to see with my eyes the footprint that we're leaving. Wait, the recyclable bin used to be this big. It is now this big with her and that little skinny this big around with her in the house. That's how many things that she's using that requires recyclable compared to what I do. So when you recycle, you are actually handling. I mean, you're taking that thing to the recycle bin and you're putting it in or you're carrying it to the curb and you're seeing with your eyes, what trail am I leaving behind? What am I giving back? And when you're composting, you're giving back things like nitrogen and phosphorus and magnesium. And when you're drinking a Pepsi and throwing that you're giving back, maybe killing a bird with the cap or we're just really not thinking. We haven't thought this out properly. Many, many things we haven't thought out properly. Now, until we find a way, and this is what I hope things like the Graduate Institute is going to do, until we can find a way to take that 84%, skim a little bit off of it here and push it over here, and move that 84% to something that enhances and benefits the earth and people. As long as what we're making our money on is people being sick and ill, it creates even a duality in us as practitioners. If somebody walks in and they get treated the first treatment, they've had pain for 22 years, and you've heard them on the phone 10 times, they've called you and given their history, they've come in today, you've done an evaluation, you do all this, you treat them one time and they're done. Well, there's a part of you that's going to go, I've done good. And then there's another part of you that's going to go, crap, that Tuesday at 10 o'clock, hole in my schedule now because they're not going to be here. It's a little bit of a conflict of interest. Everything's got to change, really, but.
So you're hitting a couple of, so far we've been talking about the macro of healing, which is very important because all of the specific healing modalities that you've learned and practiced, and I hope you'll talk about some of them.
Yes.
So that people get a flavor of that. And the specific work you do, both, you do a lot, both with growing healthy food, with eating healthy food, with preparing healthy food, with understanding our relationship to the soil. We're not going to talk about why those horns stay on cows on biodynamic farms, which is Steiner's approach to farming, and why almost all of the rest of the kind of way people raise cows, they cut the horns off. And we have such a misunderstanding of the role of cows, right? Very important, actually, for refreshing the soil. And we were talking about the mycelium, the mushrooms, the various kind of fungus, and how important they are for resequestering carbon and helping us recreate a healthy world. So all that macro that you understand is vital. And basically you're saying you go 2 or 3 levels down to these problems, and the issue is money. Because there's this press to make more money, to keep the money coming. And we're going to talk a lot about that in June at the New Story Festival with Charles Eisenstein, who is one of the premier kind of thinkers about how much our society has been distorted because of the predominance of money as the primary motivation for everything. And I think underneath the shifts in physical therapy, the movement away from embodiment, all of which is just the opposite of the education here, all gets back to this money issue.
It is.
So how does the micro of the hands-on healing and the various tools and techniques you've been a part of, and you know, your wonderful work for healing, Ann has been a personal healer to one of the great world teachers, a woman named Shalanda Saima. Somebody I also know, have been to some healing sessions with, and how many people know what Shaktipat is? So Shaktipat is where these teachers, gurus, have an ability through their access to their own energy system, to the mysterious power that's a part of all of us, and most of the time we're unaware of, this ability that they have to give you a shot of energy that's so powerful you'd think you'd taken 3 tabs of LSD. All right? And do that with a touch. Or with, say, here, kiss these sandals. So I went to visit Shalanda Saima maybe 10, 12 years ago out in Chicago. They picked us up in a fancy car, you know, big stretch limo, fed us all these great fruits and all. We had a wonderful audience. And then, she gave me Shaktipat, which lasted for like 2 weeks. So there I was, conscious, but in this state of utter bliss, simply from the touch of a hand. Now, you go, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? So there is access to energy. There is a power in our body and in the presence of reality that's really quite extraordinary. And you've had this amazing opportunity to work with her and also to develop your own capacities, integrating the physical therapy, the analytic knowledge, which you have a great deal of, the specific physiological, anatomical, biochemical knowledge, and to integrate that with the energy knowledge. And then to fit that micro understanding into this macro understanding and how they fit together. So maybe you can give people a little flavor of some of that kind of experience and then some of the micro knowledge that you have, so they get a flavor of the fullness of what you're going to be offering in the classes that will be coming up, and maybe a little experience too with some of your exercises or meditations.
Well, imagine, you guys, if I'm struggling right now as a PT. So I have a patient that comes in and says, I've got bilateral carpal tunnel syndrome. So they come in, and according to now the workman's comp regulations and everything, I'm only allowed to treat them from the wrist, from the elbow down. So let's say I do that just for entertainment purposes, for diagnostic purposes, let's say, truthfully. Let's go ahead and just try working on the tendons and mobilizing the joints, and let's see what happens. No change in symptoms, no change in symptoms. So I come up here to the brachial plexus, I come into the anterior cervical fascia, I even go into the psoas to get their rib cage up here and get their head back here, which actually, treating the psoas in this particular instance that I'm thinking is probably was the most important thing that I did. So the person's complaining, can you imagine here? Okay, they're complaining of wrists, they're falling asleep at work, they can't, you know, they come in their postures like this, and I'm only allowed to treat here. I do that and I document it, and then I also then will say, when I went up here and I did this, the posture changed, you know, 1/4 inch, the symptoms of numbness went away, and they didn't return now for 3 days. You know, I document everything very specifically, the progress. I will be denied the workman's claim. They will not pay me. I will be denied because I treated them above their elbow, even though I proved that that's what I should do. And so what happens now is that as a PT, I can't really write down what I do. So 50 years from now, if somebody wanted to go, that Ann Wilkinson, man, she had a way with those carpal tunnel people. Let's go dig out old charts, you know, wipe the dust off of them and see what she did. I can't even tell the truth. Now, when I was brought up in PT school, you better be telling the, like, I'm scared to not tell the truth. Like, I can't even tell you what a head trip it does on me to say that I only treated from the elbow down when I didn't. Like, that is really hard for me. So imagine this is the world that I'm living in, okay? And the way I met Saima, I swear I think it manifested because I did this little, like, patients didn't want to come to exercises. They don't want to, after you get me for hands-on for an hour, and then I say to you, next treatment you're going to do exercise, they always cancel that one and then come to the next one. So then I would say, that's it. You can't have a body work one unless you do an exercise one. So I would get a group, and I'd have all my assistants help me because there's a certain ratio of people in PT that you have to have. And I'd first have them, do some breathing, and then we'd do some exercises, and they didn't know that it was belly dancing, and they just, it's pelvic floor work, whatever. Yoga, back then, believe it or not, you guys, back then, I had to take my yoga posters down. I couldn't talk about yoga. Yoga was seen as a satanic thing. So, in Newark, Delaware, in Wilmington, Delaware, certainly. So, I'm sitting there teaching my patients, and we did this exercise class, and everything was wonderful. And at the end, I put them in a meditation and said, now experience your divinity. Experience the wonderfulness that you are. And so then one lady says under her breath, we're all sinners. I guess me saying that we were divine somehow plucked something in her nervous system. And so she had to whisper that, and so the person next to her got angry and said, well, in your boat, it's like that, but don't you be putting me in that boat. And I was so disturbed, you guys. First of all, I didn't have time. I don't have time for this. I don't have time to do this. And I'm trying to make these people relax, and now a war has started. And because you should have seen them. You could have seen the look of them, not you, not me. Okay, so I said, God, please, I'm begging you, please give me a language to be able to touch all people. That's all I said. Next thing you know, boy, I end up getting to meet Saima. I'm at an advanced cranial class in Sedona, and she's giving a couples workshop. And I just met her for an instant, and I couldn't stop thinking about her. And I honestly, I think at that time, I was 35 years old, I think I had never seen an Indian woman, certainly definitely not in person, and I'm not sure that I'd ever even seen one on TV. I may have seen one in a book and maybe thought that it was like a parade that you dressed up that way to make yourself look good that day. So it just happened also that morning I had had a treatment and felt and had a rebirthing. I had never had one in my life before that. I've never had one since. Plenty of patients on the table have had them. I didn't know if I believed in it or didn't, but I actually saw my birth in this treatment. And my dad had said something about, well, at least it's not our firstborn son. They thought that I might die. And he just made, that's very appropriate for an Italian man in that day to have made that comment, by the way. But I was sitting there at lunch thinking about my treatment that morning and saying, I wonder what that did to my femininity. When someone knocked me here, and I'm thinking, what is femininity? Does anybody know, really? Like, I was like, is it like perfume? Is it like being a little vulnerable? Is it pouting? Is it like pantyhose? They're feminine. Like, I was really stretching. Like, what does that word mean? Oh, my God, this man touches me here. Please come in the hall, my friend needs a remedy. Whatever, the health food store's down the street. I'm busy. I'm contemplating femininity. So he taps me again, begging me, please, please, please. And I go out in the hallway. I'm like, now hold on a second. That was quick. That's femininity. Whoa, she got it all going on. The little earrings and the little nose ring thing and the thing here and the hot pink, the long black. Oh, my God. I was amazed. Now, this is, whatever this is, that's femininity, all that stuff there. Ooh, looks like it came on top of the birthday cake. Oh, my God. Someone plucked the thing right off and made it come to life. This is so cool. And then I couldn't get her out of my mind. I said, I know I'm not gay. I am the most man-crazy woman I've ever met in my life. Why am I got this woman on my mind? It so disturbed me. 6 months later, I run into the man again. Now, you have to remember, I'm from Delaware. I meet this person in Sedona. Now, 6 months later, I'm in Colorado. I see this man again. You know, I have to confess something very strange. I can't get this woman off my mind. It's not in a gay way. It's just this very strange thing I keep saying, will I see her again? Will I ever see her? What's the chance of seeing an Indian lady that you met in Sedona, Arizona, and you live in Delaware ever again? It's the craziest thought I've ever had. And then he told me, you don't know who you've met and things like that. And I ended up finding out where she was going to be and going there. And she was talking about taking people to Egypt. And she kept saying, she's teaching a room with this maybe 3 times as many people, and she said, she just kept saying the whole weekend, don't ask me if you can go, if you have not sound mind, sound body, and this is a hard thing. Please don't make me have to tell you know who you are. So I was saying to her, do not hurt my feelings. I never wanted to go to Egypt anyway. If there's not a beach, and who wants, who cares? Like Egypt, what's there, I might not be of sound mind, I don't care. Well, I get home, and I get a phone call, and I have been invited to be one of the ones to go. So I cover the phone and start to laugh hysterically. I've tricked this lady. She thinks I'm of sound mind. This is cool. This is so cool. Wow. I'm good. I really am. Maybe an Academy Award is next. This is so good. And so I just giggled a little, and I said, gosh, this little lady, this such cute little lady, she needs somebody to go to Egypt with her. I'll go and help her out. I said to the lady, I figure $800 to Egypt, somewhere I don't want to go, what the heck, So how much does this cost, by the way? And she said, $4,000. Well, please tell her I'm just honored, but I won't be able to go. Thank you so much. And I hang up. You guys, within the hour, someone is banging on my waiting room door. Now, how often do you hear someone bang on a waiting room door? You know what I mean? Waiting room doors, you just go in and sit down, So I go to, of course, my secretary's not there, so I have to run up there and why are you banging on my door? I'm a courier from a lawyer's office, and you saw a patient 6 years ago, and we wanted to make sure that you got the check. You guys, that has never happened before that, and it will never happen again. They hold the money in escrow, hoping that you don't remember that they owed it to you. The patients will say, oh, I kind of need that. She was really nice and all, but she has a nice boyfriend. He'll pay her bills this month. That's okay. I take it. Never mind. They do not come and find you. So then I said, you know what? That check's probably for $20. That ignorant came all this way for a lousy, probably $13 check. Of course, you guys, I opened it up. It was for $4,000 even dollars, and I knew my butt had to go to Egypt. And Egypt's really cool. It really was amazing. We did the whole initiatic journey up the Nile as if you were to be. But you have to remember, back then, I'm still a PT student. If it's not in Grey's Anatomy, it's not. And so I would go to Saima's events just as her body worker. I would fly in. I'd get there at 10 o'clock at night. I'd work on her. I'd sleep on her floor. I'd get up in the morning, and I'd treat her again, and I'd leave. I didn't stay for her classes. But it was as I observed them, and then I'd stay a little longer, and then I might stay an extra day. And I tell you, it could have been 15 years into it before one day I said, you know what? I have a guru. If she told me, I want you to run fast as you can and leap off the top of this building because wings will come. I tell you from what I've seen, from what I've observed with my own eyes with people, I would run fast off that building. I know that now. As I said, I was brought up Catholic. Where I'm from, guru is a bad word. All my family's born again Christian. I was a part of a fundamentalist prayer group when I got this invitation to go to Egypt. You should have seen how they went nuts on that. But the reason why I'm trying to tell you this, I just want to give you an idea of how, in a way, you're led. In a way, there's this electromagnetic pull. It's like I'm going to tell you now, you can't fight it. I mean, you'll die fighting. I think that's why really amazing people leave. They're like, I really wanted to be a PTA mother. I'm sick of hearing people complain all day, and then I only get paid for half of it, and then I even have to lie about what I do. Why? What did you do? Come on, you got more than that going on up there. It's kind of weird. But at the same time, if we really embrace duality, we really embrace all of it, we might have to say, I had to taste conflict of interest. I had to watch a couple people die unnecessarily. I'd have people I know and love, I had to watch them lose their souls over OxyContin, and they wouldn't take a homeopathic remedy from me, smacked it out of my hand, called me a witch. My mother saw her granddaughter for the first time the other day. She's 3 months old because I served gluten-free food at the shower. Can you imagine what it's like being in the presence of someone like Saima and then having to go home to this? Like, I mean, it can get really weird, especially when you're not even really sure what you just experienced or did or saw, or, you know, you're like, wow. You know, Ma would talk about cosmic things. Oh, cosmic? I'm still back here on the earth. Cosmic beings? What are we talking about? There's a bookstore down the street. I'll meet you guys later. Like, you lost me on that. You know, there was just, I could only handle so much at a time, you know? And I think a lot of times I laughed. Ma did not need one treatment. I think, like, she was probably like, oh, God, this one needs an intensive. She ain't going to get it in the class. I'm going to have to, you know, while she thinks she's treating me, I'm certain of it. I'm certain. Saima did not need me. I think that she's, you know, I'm sure that she saved my life, and that I keep saying to myself, every morning I wake up and I go, okay, you've been at Sai Baba's feet. You've been Ma's body worker for 20 years. You've met gurus all over the world. You've studied in Israel, taught in Israel, studied in India. Like, okay, what do you want me to do with all that? You've obviously given me these experiences for some reason. Now, where do we go?
So
now,
let's pick up on that.
Yes.
Let's pick right up on that,
okay.
Because you've sort of illustrated that you started out with this very conventional training.
Very.
As you probably have picked up, though Ann didn't really talk about it a lot, she has a very sophisticated traditional medical knowledge. And she has had really intense experiences that are out of the normal range of what allopathic medicine would even think is real. So she's really spanned the kind of the whole spectrum of these healing modalities. Maybe it would be good to dive in a little bit about one aspect of that, you know, one of the particular ways that your hands-on healing actually works, and maybe to take people into one of your meditations.
Very good.
Or one of those as we have some time here, so they get the full flavor.
What time is it? So I want to know what
we have about 1 more hour.
Oh, great. All right. So when I was 8 years old, by the time I was 8 years old, I think I had maybe 6 surgeries under my belt, and probably had put in about 8 to 10 months of hospital time. First of all, hospital time was different in that day. Something that you would go in for outpatient and right back out today, you could be in the hospital for 2 months. They would have you come in, and you had to be free of any kind of illness for 2 weeks before they would do your surgery, and then you had to be free of any kind of illness for 2 weeks before they would let you out of there. So when you're dealing with a children's ward, and you know, you could get stuck in there for a really long time.
Is this both of us?
And so I had a birth defect when I was born. I had 2 fingers were together and one didn't have a knuckle. And so at 6 months they started with the surgeries. It was experimental, you know, at that time. At that time, they would just let the fingers close up and nip off this finger, but they decided they were going to play with the group and see, you know, what they could do with it. So I'm 8 years old, and the teacher asked us, what would you like to be when you grow up? And you had to go one at a time, one through the class. So there happened to be a guy sitting behind me that I ended up seeing maybe 20 years ago. And he said to me, do you remember in 3rd grade when the teacher asked us that? Do you remember what you said because you're doing it? So how weird is that the guy that happened to be sitting behind me? So like I'm saying, this is all, the whole thing, my whole life is kind of nee. You know, it's very strange. So when they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, I stood up and said, a doctor that helps people to live. I don't want to give anyone any medication. I don't want to give them any anesthesia. I don't want to give them any needles. But I want to be a doctor that makes people live. I didn't know I was describing a homeopathic osteopath at that time. I didn't know what one of those were. And they had been actually squelched. The AMA literally took over homeopathy and osteopathy and tried to eliminate, like, you know, they made chocolate cigarettes one time and then Marlboro bought them and you never saw them again? Things like that. You know how big companies will buy little cool companies and then like eliminate their competition? They did that. It's documented. You'll have to look that up on your own sometime, or we can do a whole class about it. But if you look up a woman named Coulter, it's documented incredibly well. And why health insurance came about, hospitals and doctors were closing. People were not, they were saying, there is no, you're not touching me. Homeopathy's working just fine, the osteopathy. And then people got afraid. What if we actually will need a hospital at one time? We have to find a way to make them stay. And health insurance is created only, not just in case you have something happen and you don't have the funds. We'll all collectively get together. Or not because you're going to feel like you're going to get something for free because you're going to go into the doctor. They're just going to take care of everything, you know? And so then they'll feel good free. You might pay with your life, but free. You see, it was
really quickly.
All of
all
bring,
right. That's why I had to read.
You guys, I
Isn't
tell
she a
you, start from this moment thinking
really
with your
knows
heart
her stuff too,
and loving with your mind, and then you'll get things right. But if you continue to think with your brain, and you just keep kind of
that's why I was
sitting
trying
like
to bring
here,
her back a little bit
somebody special,
because she goes into this
little
space,
puppy
but
so cute,
you know,
they can kind
and
of
this
get
is
that
pretty good.
going.
This is good. Email it to me and I'll fix it up a little bit.
No,
Do you need it?
It's not going to work. You got to be love. You got to come into a room, but full Satan. You come into the treatment, you're going to be sending it that way. I'll tell you what, you're not sending love this way, you'll get the headache.
But she's not a teacher.
You just have to get her into it.
Right.
You start
she
to
just has
notice
to
that
know.
by the end of the day, you're like, oh my,
She doesn't have
freaking God, I'm not,
she was
but
here,
no,
you know,
no,
coming
I
in
can't
to do
take
this,
any more
but when she
patients
has,
today.
she has programs, she's
No,
very,
I've got a
she
headache,
teaches her own courses,
my back
they're
hurts
amazing.
now,
So you have
and
to just
here's
focus
what you're
her
doing
there.
wrong.
And feel free to go ask
You
her some more
accept the fact.
questions to do that. Yeah, that's
The
what I was
healing
trying to
comes
do a little
from
bit.
I know you were good.
Yeah.
wherever we
Yeah.
all come from.
But she really can go.
And when you
Let me
make a
teach you this.
request,
Yeah, it's amazing.
for it to come through
Yeah, well,
you
since
in
want
a
little
way
bit of
to
that, but
love
now it's
another
time.
being,
So go and ask us.
you'll see miracles
You know,
and
raise your
amazing
hand,
things
say,
happening.
You know, really, can you dive in a
Also,
little
the
more? I'm gonna
energy
do
is
this in a
flowing
minute.
this way, and none of it comes back to you.
Shari, email
But if you're
me this.
doing it like this,
You know, no,
I've
not
got to
now.
get this,
Be
I've got to
free.
figure,
Go
look,
in here and keep
I
her on
remember
track.
they taught me an anterior mobilization. It always does, it always
Okay.
gets the super spread. Oh.
There-
Still
there-
first when you're, I've
It's
got
just one.
friction
Give me
massage,
one,
that's,
and I'll put the
that's
first
next.
one in,
Okay.
and then we can just copy them because it's really be
Okay,
pretty
that
simple.
didn't work.
All right, let's just get one. What's the first date of the first one?
Tuesday, April 21st.
All right, so it
If
goes
you
here,
think that you're doing this,
right?
and that's how you're, I tell you, the patient
the
may, you
same day
may
as
work
this,
hard
right?
enough, you might sweat and grunt hard
Okay,
enough to make them leave
Control
without their headache or
C.
their shoulder pain. But more than likely you'll
Control
have it.
B. Control B.
It really all comes
Do it
from
right.
source and through you.
Oh, that's fine.
Everything's a gift. Opening your eyes is a
And what's
gift.
the time?
Your patient's stinky feet is a gift.
4:30 to
Your
5:30.
child interrupting your sessions, if you
4:30.
change your brain and your way
the
of
space between or no, just
being
dash?
and stop doing, and it's a
Just
surrender
dash.
that's so strange.
I always
It kind of
space
makes you feel like
after
you're
the
giving up.
spaces.
I tell you, I don't give up, boy. That white flag, no,
30.
I'll burn that thing.
Right? Delete.
I
Delete,
die
delete.
first. It'll have blood on it. I'm not giving. I'm not
PM
waving
is
the
right
white flag.
before. We gotta do it the
But
same.
when you surrender, it's a scary feeling
right.
of like that I've given
No,
up.
we should. All right. 4:30 to 5:30 p.m.
But I tell you, if you don't do
Wait
it,
a second.
you eventually surrender from exhaustion.
We gotta get rid
You,
of them.
you will eventually
Spaces.
surrender from a survival place.
Space
And then there's
before,
this period of
space
recovery.
after. Okay.
Just
And what
take
is
my word for it.
info
Just do it. Don't make yourself go through that. Just like give it up. Allow yourself to be a vehicle,
Yes,
a
that's
conduit
exactly.
of energy.
That's exactly what we want to get. Information
And then
session.
know that all those things that we can't see, because come on, if we don't know it by now,
With
there is so much more to Ann
members
Wilkinson than my pink nails and my hair stripes
of the
and
TGI.
my white sweater and my height and my weight and all that.
faculty, right?
There's stuff out here. I'm sending stuff home right now. There's blue flames around the house. My daughter's getting white light.
And
I ain't doing that while I'm
administration.
talking to you. You better believe I'm going to be doing it while a patient's on my table. Then when you get some real scary stuff on your table, I mean, you get people who come in with multiple personalities and they've been victims of, crazy things. And
Learn about
I mean, there was a time when I would clear my office out. Certain people would come. No one would be allowed to be in the office.
the
And I would.
extra
And with those
ordinary,
kinds of patients, you can't go into fear.
educational
The world of
opportunities
energy is more concrete than our
Movies.
physical world.
at
It's more of a foundation
The
of what you're doing as a healer.
East.
The intention that comes through your fingers from your heart,
COAS.
the intention that comes through your fingers is going to cause an electromagnetic reaction and a healing in your patient.
Center.
You can become a homeopathic
Holistic
remedy
education.
and change your electromagnetic state for a moment and give it to the patient. It's really unnecessary to run to the kit and grab the pellets and bring them back and give them any more.
Earn
I mean, we do that because people need that. If I charge somebody for a homeopathic
graduate
consult,
degree.
and I, take it, then I go over, it's like, we're not ready for that yet. So many times, my treatment is over in 5 minutes, and I've got to put in the other 55 minutes because I know that the patient's, look at the clock, but that treatment was done. And it might have been done when I said, put that phone down and get on this table, or I'm canceling your appointment. That could be the treatment. But you allow yourself, give yourself permission. Okay, I'll give you an example now. This is a good example. Has everybody seen Avatar? Everybody saw Avatar. All right, when that guy gets on the horse and how when he grabs the horse, all of a sudden, like, he becomes, one with the horse. You see that, like, that melding, and you almost see that, like, so he touches the horse, and then you see this that goes in, and and now they're one. Well, when you put your hands on someone, your fascia becomes their fascia. You can feel like you'll put your hands on their hands, in between my shoulders. Like, I'll be treating somebody, and I'll be like, and then I'll say, turn over for a minute, and okay, I don't know. I think I'm going to need to go in and myofascially release that a little bit. Like, I can feel it in me when they're done. Okay, that's it. That was done. All you needed was I can feel it in my body, what they need. Sometimes I'll hear it. So sometimes I'll be at a person's head. I think I'm almost done treatment. I don't know if it's Jesus, Buddha, Mary, an alien. I'm not sure who is saying, touch their left foot. Sorry, I'm not doing that. Touch the left foot. They have a headache. I don't even know who I'm talking to, okay? They have a headache, and I'm not touching their foot. Touch the left foot, touch the left foot. It'll be like, when your kid is like, Mom, what? So I'll hear, touch the left foot, touch the left foot. And I'll be like, I am absolutely not touching the left foot. They're going to think I'm crazy. They're here for a headache. I already worked on their pelvis. That's already stretching enough. They don't understand why I worked on their pelvis when they had a headache. Now you want me to touch the foot? No, I'm not. So I'll walk by them, and this impulse will be there, and I'll just go like, I'll just touch it real light. Maybe just graze it. They go by. And the patient will say, oh my God, last night I rolled my ankle, I heard this hugest pop. I was sure I fractured. Before you go, would you take a peek at that? I'll say, who is this that tells me to do these things? And they're always right. I don't know. I either feel it or I hear it. And then sometimes I'm working on a patient and something just comes out. And it'll be something like that I wouldn't normally say. And I'm waiting for the patient to say, excuse me? Who do you think you are to say that to me? I'm waiting for that, And they'll be like, they might start to cry, or they'll say, I needed that. I needed you to put me back in my place there. I was definitely pushing the envelope or whatever, missing appointments or being late or like I said, if there's people who their energy is not that they're disabled, but they're playing, I wail them. I'll say, you need to find another therapist. I'm not playing with you. I'm not here. You make me look bad. I know you feel better, and you're going to the doctor and telling them that? No, go find someone else. A lot of people will smear gel on you and charge you. Go. Sometimes it's not, and I'll think, who just said that? That a patient's been coming to me for 3 months, I just kicked it out. But it's like, it's weird. If you really allow yourself to be that thing that's, whatever You know, when they touch the other person and they become one, I mean, it's huge now. Imagine that person just, you're just way bigger than you are. And then I climb up on the table because I'm really little and I can. And I had my tables handmade so that I can. They don't, you know, they don't rock or anything. They're real strong. And so like I can just do things that people 5 times my height and weight can't do because I climb up on the table to get it. If I need this joint to move this way and the vector force is here, then I'm going to climb up here and I'm going to get it. I'm not here to play. I am not wasting. I'm not going to waste words. I'm not going to waste time. You know, like if I feel like that's what it needs, that's what I'll do. So my modalities that I use, so basically when I treat a patient, I'm almost 100% hands-on. If I'm not hands-on, then I'm showing them to do something at home that keeps them where they are, that when they come the next time, they haven't so we're not putting out a fire, that, you know, we're continually moving. If you get 3 days of relief, then you should be here by your 4th day for treatment. If you're getting a week of relief, wait a week. If you're only getting 2 days of relief, don't wait 2 weeks before you come back in. You're a mess. You're starting all over again. But my patients don't have to come every day. They don't really, most of them don't have to come 3 times a week. And they certainly aren't going to have to come forever, because if they are, then you're not doing, something's wrong. So basically, here's how I would describe what I do. I create space so the body can find home again. So what happens if you injure a joint? You know, let's say I hyperextend my elbow, and it's, you know, all loose. I can't put weight on it. I can't push on anything. The only way to repair that is to immobilize it so that it gets so tight, and then when I take it out of the immobilization, then I have to selectively get it to move here, but I certainly would never want to restore that motion that's beyond. You know, I would stop there. I wouldn't continue to push it. I'd take it to its normal range, and I would try to have it revisit this hyper range that makes it, you know, vulnerable. So when you have a loose joint, the only way to fix it is to immobilize it and make it tight. But when you have a tight joint, you have to really know how that joint works. For instance, the knee doesn't bend like this, like a hinge. It doesn't bend that way. The knee bends like this. So for all these poor total knee replacements, God help them. 30 years ago at Johns Hopkins, I learned how to do a very gentle mobilization on the knee. So in other words, if I want to make the knee bend, I'm going to make sure that the knee can glide and glide. So I just mobilize gliding, I mobilize gliding, and then I say bend, and they just bend more. But you want to hear something scary? Now, I learned this 30 years ago, less than an hour from where I practice. The standard of practice for a total knee to get the knee to bend is to have the patient take enough OxyContin before they come in. They're given a certain amount that's very high. They cannot, so much they cannot drive. They have to be driven to therapy. One person holds them down while 2 other therapists bend their knee as hard as they can, and they scream and they cry. And when they leave, their knee is swollen. They came in walking without a cane. They leave and need a cane to leave. This is standard of practice. I've got to tell you, the knee, not only, you know the amount of damage and scar tissue they're doing to that? And it's so simple. I tell you, when I do my total knee patients, there's not one tear. There's no pain medications. And they gain range of motion rapidly. Now, how can I have been introduced to that technique over 30 years ago? And it's that effective, and today people are still, that is a crime, if you ask me. It's kind of like, you know how all of a sudden it seems like policemen are going freaking crazy? And like they say stop once, and if you don't stop, all of a sudden it seems like they're shooting everybody. Well, it kind of seems like in the physical therapy world, it's like, hey man, now the OxyContin's around, take a few and we're just going to force this stuff and plow right through it and let's not waste any time. And like they're not even using physics and arthrokinematics. So basically osteopathy is using vector forces, common sense, the arthrokinematics of a joint, and understanding that different tissues have different textures and tensions. So that if I have to keep manipulating a joint back into place, there's something that's pulling it out. Now, is it tight psoas muscles that are pulling and pulling and pulling and allowing my thoracic vertebrae to go posterior? So I can keep pushing that vertebrae anterior, crack the patient, maybe they'll be up here by the time they leave and they'll feel good. They come in like this though. Meanwhile, if I release their psoas, give them some exercises and teach them how to be upright. But so many times in physical therapy, they just yell at the patient, stand up straight. Well, if your psoas are really tight, I don't care. You can try all you want. It's not going to do it. And you can yell at the patient. You can make them feel terrible. You can write them down as non-compliant. You can make them come for a whole year because they're not getting it. You're not getting it. When I changed my practice from in the city to out in the country to my farm, one day I was like, I've got everything I need. I'm paying $4,500 a month for rent, $30,000 payroll with 12 employees. What am I doing? My patients would much rather be pushing a wheelbarrow, walking a horse up on a horse in a pool, than lifting weights in this. And I have to stay in this godforsaken basement of a place while I know my patients are doing crap. And I just got the guts to go home, move everybody to the farm. And so I had my patient load was a little, low, and I needed to supplement my income. So I went into the nursing homes and started doing some side work. And I remember doing my paperwork, and I hear this woman behind me just screaming a bloody murder. And she's very pale, she's very, very old, very white hair, very white skin, and she had fallen and broken both of her tibial plateaus. And so the PTs, they're trying to get knee flexion, and they're doing exactly what I was telling you, and they're screaming and everything, and I really need to get out of here, but you guys, would you mind, can I try something? And I mobilized her knees here. The poor little lady could hardly see, and she goes, I don't know who you are, but you're an angel. It's like, they know. They know, oh my gosh, this was different. You can't even see me, she could just feel it. And then that same day, I was getting ready to leave again, and I'm like, oh, should I just keep my big mouth shut or not? And I remember reading in this one patient's chart, and it said, he goes 15 feet, and then he gives up. And, he can do more than that, but he just gives up. And there was just something. I don't know, there's something about the way the PT wrote the note, and I was like, I watched, and sure enough, this poor little guy, they'd get him up, out of his chair on the walker, and he'd start walking. And they'd be like, I can't I'm in the chair. Of course he's going to give up. So I said, may I just have a few moments? So I laid him down and I released his psoas muscles. The guy he went 150 feet. He just got right up and kept on going. And it's like, I take my old people, I get them on their stomachs right away. And they'll be like, you can't put old people in extension. Oh, why? Because this is better? Once you pass a certain place here, you can't get your coat on. You'll never see the stars again. That's never going to happen. Really. I'd rather put them in extension once a day than have them be here. And, they put their own coat on. Do you know how much organ compression and nerve and how the nerves and the blood vessels have to take all these circuitous routes when you're like this? Do you know the amount of tension? Do you know it only takes the weight of a hair? It takes a restriction, the weight of a hair, to impede nerve function, to interfere with nerve function. Do you know what restrictions are in someone who's like this? They're like the ropes that hold your boat to a dock. So much more force than that. Can you imagine the kind of central nervous system, torque and, blood flow problem, of course. Intermittent claudication, neuropathies. Who's going to be like this and not have that? What chance do you have? Do you know how many reflex sympathetic dystrophy and neuropathy patients I have seen and turn their symptoms completely around? Do you know the amount of medication? Do you know the Lyrica, the medications and things these people are on? They blow up like balloons. They become foggy. I remember a doctor gave me Xanax. I took Xanax once. I called him up. I was like, holy shit, you could kill somebody on these things. like somebody could, I could walk up to somebody and tell them they were ugly and not even think about it. Someone could hit me in my face and I'd be like, do you have a problem? I only took it once to have that feeling. And when they called me, I said to him, this stuff is crazy stuff. Yeah, I'm afraid I'll get in trouble on this. I might just say any old thing and do anything I want. It's like nothing bothers me. This is wild. I said, I don't think I can take this stuff. And he said, Ann, I have given you the most minimal possible dose that there is that you can give. I give people 4 times this amount, 3 times a day. And again, I'm like, this is a crime. There's people that are driving on the same road that I'm driving on that amount of that stuff. Like, there's people. Like, how about everybody? Like, maybe not. We probably have a really select little group here because you guys happen to be at this institute and you're, I got to tell you. Now, I was really happy to see that 65% of America is buying organic milk. In fact, sometimes you go to the grocery store and they say you can't find any. So you know what someone wrote when somebody shared that on Facebook? They're like, yep, 65% of Americans are idiots and they fall for that stupid stuff, that there's really a difference. And I wrote back and I go, you mean 45% of Americans still don't know that kids are dropping like flies and people are having allergic reactions and dying at their breakfast table over cereal because of the genetically modified milk? 45% still doesn't know that? Those 65 aren't idiots. The 45% are idiots. I'm starting to speak up now, boy. I'm serious. I'm not doing this anymore. Too many years, people would smack remedies out of my hand, call me a witch and all. I watched this girl go away in a helicopter. There was nothing wrong. A little rescue remedy cream, little arnica, thing would have been all over with. It's really, you guys, we are suffering unnecessarily. So why would people go to a hospital? Why would they be talked into a surgery and another surgery and another surgery? Why would they eat pills? Why would you eat crap food when you can eat great food? I got to tell you, I know the answer. That's how smart I am. I know the answer. Because we're afraid of the unknown. Even if the unknown is absolutely fantastic, we're still afraid of it. Still fear. So again, I'm going to go back. If I didn't say this, I didn't say it in the beginning, and I should have. And say it in the middle, and I should say it in the end. There's only 2 places to operate from. How many patients did I see this week? 20 patients. 20 patients times 200. Shit, I should have never fired that one patient. I'm going to have to really smooth that doctor boy next week, man. I'm going to have to take that fat thing to golf. Okay, so I can operate from there. Okay. I'm going to have to wear the high heels and really smooth that sucker. Okay. So we can operate from that, or we can operate from whoever's supposed to be on my table today is going to come through that door. In fact, actually, I'll say a little prayer right now. God, if anybody needs me, bring them on. If it's somebody who's not supposed to be here and waste my time, please save them, and we'll put them through. Don't let them come through my door. Thank you. I mean, like, you can actually call on these beings that we can't see. Actually, light is probably your hugest energetic tool. Light is a being that you can call on and request. You can say, Light, I'm going to ask you to go ahead into the courtroom, dance all over that judge like he had somebody this morning. Oh yeah, make him feel the same as if, you know what I mean. Good, go for it. Light, go ahead in there. Everybody all happy where I come in and have, thank you. Light, go ahead of me in the car and clear the traffic because I really have to be on time. I tell you today I saw something weird happen to the clock. This is 3rd time it happened. I said, I'm not going to look at the clock. I'm pretty sure I might miss my train. I'm only going to focus on driving. But the parking lot was closed, and I had to find another one, and I was driving. I said, I'm sure that's my train on the track, and I'm down here, but I'm just going to focus on the drive. I'm just going to focus on, I don't care if I even know that that train has gone out. I'm going up to the platform. I tell you, I caught my train today. With a few minutes to spare, but I was convinced. I seriously was not going to park. I was so sure. But again, I remembered to use light and send it ahead. Hold the train. The train was like 4 minutes late. I think that's why I had a few minutes to just stand on the platform like I knew I was okay.
Your microphone.
Fell?
Yeah, right there next to you. Up there. Yep, there you go.
Sorry, thank you.
And the question
Yes.
and meditation would be one.
What time is it right now? Are we down to that half an hour?
Yep, it's time.
Okay. So I'm going to finish that concept though. So that second place that I could come from. Okay. Comes to my table. Patient maybe comes in all like, oh my God, my husband, what an asshole. He was like, took the car and I was late and then the kids. Just love that being. In fact, I actually think I wouldn't even have to say, you know what, I really need you to take a deep breath. Why don't you just come on the table and relax a minute. You're really wound up. You're not going to get a lot out of your treatment. Do you know that sometimes you could just stand there and just send love to them and they'll just all of a sudden, and then just calm down and get on the table like, just try it. I tell you, even if you don't even believe it, fake it. And then when you see it happen enough times, then you cannot deny an experience. Like I can sit here and tell you, you use light, you use it like this, you think of it like that, you tell it to do that, and that's going to happen. I can tell you that. I could tell you that every time I see you. And you might believe me, and you might not. Because in the word believe is the word lie. But only when you know it are you going to use it. It's only when you know it. And the only way you're going to know it is to try it and see it happen for your own experience. Then someone else could come up to you and say, light is crap. You can't do anything with light. I'll shut that light off. You want me to show you how it is? I'll shut that light off right now. Then what are you going to say, huh? And you know what? If you've had the experience, I don't care what they said, they could shut the lights off. The whole world could go dark. If you've had that experience with light, there's nothing that they could do to make it go away. So, that other place, when you operate from that place and that space, that's love. So you can operate out of fear and you can operate out of love. And I can tell you, even when things don't look right, even when it looks bad, if you still come from a place of love, everything will transform. It will. And the only way sometimes that you're maybe going to know this is if you journal. Because if you journal, you're going to see on one page, like, today was hell. Here's what I tell my patients to do every morning. 5 things that you're grateful for. So there's some mornings you wake up and you're like, I'm breathing. There's one. The sun might come out later. There's 2. And then there's other days, you guys, where you'll be writing down the side of the page. So when you do your journaling, there'll be some work you'll do in the future in journaling. You'll be able to see here's one day you're in hell. And then 3 days later of the same subject matter, you're in heaven. But what you really want to do as you become a healer and you see all this stuff coming at you, and you're being taken here, there, and everywhere, and then all of a sudden, you like I said, you either get exhausted or for survival purposes, you come back. And you get to this place and you just ride a wave. So a lot of my treatments, really, the myofascial work, if you're doing it right, you're following the motion. You're not, may I borrow your arm to mine? Absolutely. So let's say there's a restriction, say right there. If you're doing the work right, you're not busting through that restriction. So you felt that. That was a certain sensation. We can tell about that later, to tell them in a minute. Or I can follow the release, and when the tissue moves, I can move with it. What was your difference in those two to you?
Well, obviously one is more engaging and healing. The second one was definitely, it enabled much more range. Felt better.
That first one kind of hurt, didn't it? A little
Well,
bit.
it was, yeah, you were just...
Imposing kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So keep that image of Avatar. As soon as you put, good morning, Mr. So-and-so. Right, already Avatar's going on. You know, if you're mobilizing their foot, whatever it is, you know, nasal septum, mobilizate, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're pouring light into them. You're pouring love into them. and you're becoming one with them, and you're feeling into them. So you may have your contact might be on the nasalis, but you may be feeling their brainstem. You might be pulling their arm, and you may be feeling in the sternum, the rib cage. Osteopathy uses levers, uses bones as levers to get to the fascia to go deep. So let's say I want to get the fascia that's underneath my scapula. I might have someone pull your arm this way. I may have somebody pull your leg that way while I'm back here lifting or doing it. It's really, I tell you, really good osteopathic work, there is nothing like it. Anybody who's ever had it will say that. Like, I went to an osteopath once and never had back pain away again. You'll hear that. You're not going to hear, I went 3 times a week for 25 years, and then one day I woke up and it was gone. So you use, and then not only that, while you're engaging with the patient doing that, they also tell you things. Like, before I die, the one thing I really want to do is ride a horse again. When I was little, when I come here, it reminds me of when I was little and life was wonderful. I tell you what, their ass will be on a horse so fast you don't know what happened. I just have to hear somebody say that. The next appointment, I did it to a girl the other night. She's been saying that to me. I called her up, I go, 70 degrees. If you don't have your riding stuff in the car and you're already on your way, I have stuff that will fit you, but I just want you to be prepared. You're riding today. And it was weird because she took real long getting out of the car, and then she had to go to the bathroom, and then she had to do this, and then she had to do that. And I called her on it. I said, what's going on? Well, it's been a while. Yeah, well, I've got a remote control horse, so let's go. We had a blast. It was good, but you've got to. One time I took a girl who was afraid to have, like, every date she went on, guys are horrible, all they want is sex. Well, honey, I'm going to tell you right now, you don't want to marry somebody who doesn't want it. Okay? So well, my Christian upbringing, my parents are telling me, I know, I get that, okay? Yeah. I don't want to, I'm not going to headbutt that, but I do want to tell you something. Guy not bad if he think you cute, okay? Like, that's a good thing. So then I said, how am I going to get to this kid without telling her parents have taught her terrible things, or whatever, or her preacher's wrong or something, So I put her on a humongous horse, and I taught her how to tell him what to do, and how to go faster, and how to go slower, and how to stop. And that kid, she came from coming into therapy like, my neck hurts and my back hurts. And that guy last night, what an asshole, he tried to touch me. She went from that to coming like, dating now, and we're loose. But these things carry over. It's our mind, our mind. So it carries over into our life. Okay, so that's it. Just go with that, whatever. When you feel a patient needs you, you give it to them, and you touch them and you engage them, you know it. They're on exercise equipment, you're smearing ultrasound gel on one while you're turning up the electrical stim on the other, you're going to hear about the Phillies game. You're not going to hear about when I was, oh my God, I've had this pain before. When I was 3, my mother knocked me down the steps. It was an accident, but my own mother, I've not been right since. They've noticed my eyes go in different directions. And they remember this stuff when you touch them. And then you say, you know what, let's go in and look at your cranium. Maybe we should give you a homeopathic remedy for a head injury. Even though it happened 35 years ago, it doesn't mean it can't be helped. We used to think that you were only plastic when you were little. And we're finding out that's not true. But anyway, I'm going to end that. But I wanted to give you an idea of what we do. And we do 3-person and 2-person techniques sometimes. I've even done 5-person techniques. I was at John Barnes' clinic once, and he gave me 8 students. And the first person he sent me in to see, the person said, I was in a car accident. I had all kinds of pain. Now I have one little teeny tiny pain right here. I've got 8 students. And I've got an area to work with that's that big. Now what am I going to do? So it's like, you grab a foot, you grab an arm, I grab in, you grab a sacrum, you do this, you do here. And so we just had this woman like completely, she was being elongated in every possible direction. We're real quiet, we're all real quiet, and all of a sudden you hear this noise like this. Like a fish kiss. It's little tiny. She goes, that just moved. So she gets up, she goes, I have no pain, I'm done. So it's like, phew, okay, that was good. So the next patient is a quadriplegic. Okay. So how am I going to myofascially treat a quadriplegic with 8 people? So I really go in and wing it this time. Like, I'm really scared. And I'm thinking, okay, just God, please let me get out of here without hurting her. Doesn't she have enough problems? Please, God, be real careful. This is how I'm thinking. And then I go to do my notes, and the aide comes up and she taps me. The 8th student had gone to the bathroom. In this clinic I was in, when they tap the door, you're done treatment. Therapists evaporate, and they leave. As soon as they tap, you're like, you're done, and you wrap up. Well, this student, the last knocked on the door, and I thought we were done. So I had cut the treatment a couple minutes early, not knowing, thinking that that was the aide knocking on the door. So when I'm writing the notes, and someone taps me, he said, the patient would like to speak with you. I'm like, oh, crap. I'm in trouble because we ended early, or must have done something wrong, this poor little quadriplegic patient. Oh, God, and I'm walking there like I'm walking the plank. She wants to talk to me, crap. And she said, I'm breathing normally for the first time since this happened. I can breathe. Thank you. You know what I mean? So, fear just has absolutely no place in your treatment room. If there's a fear before you walk in, you'll want to resolve it. I was with Saima in India once, and I was going around treating people in little huts, and we were on our way to one hut, and these guys came up to the guy that was taking me because he knew English. And she wanted to tell him that these bandits were on the road and they robbed people and they saw some people dead and all. We're in the middle of nowhere in the Himalayas. There's 24 Americans. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, if I'm a robber in India, I'm looking for money, and there's 24 Americans at the end of the road, oh, I wonder when they're going to arrive. Oh my God, I'm never going to see my daughter again. Why did I come to this place? And I went into fear like you can't believe. So I'm walking into this woman's hut who's rolling around on the ground in pain. And all I'm thinking is, we're going to die. This is it. We're going to get gunned down for a little bit of American money. Shit. What have I done? I tell you guys, that fast, I turned around. Now, I had left Saima with 4 architects that she had waited for all day. And we had to go through all these fields and paths to get to this place. And I had this panic come over me, and that fast, here she was at the door. It was like she flew, and she was standing like this, and it was like she was huge. She goes, why don't we have some tea? And she takes us up to the rooftop, full moon, and I'm thinking, oh, great. We're sitting ducks. They're going to see us first. What have I done? What have I let this woman talk me into doing? And she sat there, and she made me sit in that fear. And she just drinking tea. Until I finally, it had to just do all its stuff to me. Until I finally realized that it was 45 minutes later, and we were still sitting under there under the bright moon on top of the building. And no gunman came, and we weren't going to die. And then she just got up and left, and I went in and treated my patient. So that is how important, okay? Can you imagine that she's waiting for architects, that she leaves them and comes to me because she can feel me getting ready to impart fear upon this poor woman who's probably never experienced anything that I was about to hand her. And she came, and that was how she dispelled it. And then she went back to lesser important work. But you see how in our mind that would be like, who cares if Ann Wilkinson's going to touch this person with fear and they're not in a hut in the middle of nowhere in the Himalayas? But you see how significant that it was, that she showed up there like that? Like a bat out of hell, an angel out of heaven. Whoa, she was there. I mean it. I tell you, I think she either materialized or flew. All right, I'll take questions now. I'm done.
Dazed from your wonderful presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to peek at your watch while we...
It's it's about quarter.
Okay. So I'm saving something when we're done with the questions. We have one thing to wrap up, so I'm going to save 5 minutes at the end. So we have like maybe 10 minutes that we can do some neat things. Anybody here? So let's ask a question here. Anybody here undergoing medical care?
I broke my shoulder and my pelvis a little bit ago.
is anything that I'm saying, I want you to just tell me, am I theatrically and grossly exaggerating? Or from your experience that you had, is there some truth to what I'm saying? From your experience with your broken shoulder and your pelvis, let's just say, let's see if, yeah.
Let me think. It was my first experience with the medical establishment
Thank
in my
God.
life, except
Okay.
for having babies. And I was very taken with their expertise and their level of care and their concern. What really struck me was how even the aides in the nursing home, the whole establishment, they had no individual discretion that they could use. They couldn't use their common sense. They all were bound by sets of rules that all extended above and beyond them. Even the administrators had to follow the rules of the insurance company. And I felt that because they were all so constricted in their area of operation, which you described so clearly earlier, I was so humbled and really almost to tears to see how much of their humanity they could bring to it and their good-heartedness and their friendliness, in spite of living in what I thought of as really oppressive working conditions.
It is. Yeah, it's like having your hands and your feet bound, and then being told to go run a marathon. You know, it's really, you're right. They are. I remember when I heard them coming up with functional units in nursing. So when you delivered care, it was in the time that had to be in certain time chunks. To me, it was the most bizarre and ludicrous thing that I had ever heard of in my life, and nursing care has certainly suffered terribly since then.
And especially the particularization. So there was an occupational therapist who could do me from the waist up, and a physical therapist who could do me from the waist down. And they weren't supposed to cross over into each other's territories.
Please, God help us. Okay, so you guys here, watch this one. Somebody comes to me for a headache. 99 times out of 100, or neck pain, or even shoulder pain, or even pain in their hands, I've got to come here. Now, it doesn't happen the other way around. If someone comes in and they have back pain, I don't go to their neck. It kind of happens from the ground up is the way that it works, osteopathy, and the way I practice it anyway. We kind of evaluate someone and treat them in that manner. And then usually what happens is the symptoms that came most recently leave first, and the oldest symptom is the one that leaves last, is what we usually see. So this thing with occupational and physical therapy, do you want to hear something strange? When I was in PT school, occupational therapists taught you how to cook, how to put on your socks, how to drive a car, how to get in and out of the car, how to get up and down from your stairs and things like that. So it taught you how to maybe do your occupation again, how to function in the kitchen and the house. I guess now because we do so much takeout or whatever, they ran out of things to do. So now could you imagine saying to a physical therapist, you're only allowed to do from here down and teach people how to walk. You're not allowed to touch from here to here. Now you study it, not only did you study it as undergraduate, you got a master's degree and a PhD, but don't touch that. The occupational therapist doesn't have anything to do. I have to tell you, I think it's lunacy. I'm so disappointed in my profession. I don't tell people I'm a physical therapist. I tell them I'm an osteopathic body worker. Okay, question next. Anybody want to say an experience?
What's your work? You seem to have a lot of recognition of what Ann's talking about.
Well, I'm a maverick too.
Yay.
I'm an occupational therapist by training, earlier than you. And
So you've seen exactly what I'm saying.
I've seen
Go ahead.
everything
I'm going to hear
you've
what you have to
said.
say. Go ahead.
I've seen everything that you're saying. And I ended up in a rehabilitation center where I treated the entire body.
because you can't separate that. The fascia goes from head to toe. Everything you're saying connects with what I've been doing.
With what you've experienced. So can I convince you that you should be separate? Could I convince you now, after having that experience, that you shouldn't be touching the legs or the arms?
Well, never. I mean,
Never.
I
Never.
never operated that way. I had quite a long waiting list to come to me at the center. And I had different doctors, different physiatrists who had tried everything to fix this person, and then they'd finally send them to me. And I treated a lot of different kinds of pain, a lot of traumatic brain injury.
I'm going to get you on the table while you're talking now.
Yeah. I've had a lot of injury too.
And it's from here,
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
my psoas is
If nobody's gotten into your respiratory diaphragm and your psoas, shame on them.
Well, I don't have the opportunity to be treated now very, very much because I became injured, but it's been a long story. But anyway, I totally understand what you're saying, and I've definitely experienced it, and I've had people that didn't understand where I was coming from, but at least I finally found a niche for all things. I mean, I was in an Easter Seals rehab center, but I was tolerated doing my different thing because I was successful. I would have people with MS come in with crutches and walk out. And I had people with a lot of pain, especially from traumatic brain injury. And after I did a lot of cranial and myofascial and, you know, all the toolbox, they were able to experience no pain.
Isn't it wild when someone comes into you and they're like, it's my right side, my whole right side is a mess. My right arm's a mess, my right leg's a mess. And then you work on all that and nothing happens. And then you come up to their head and you do a cranial treatment and like you start to notice consistently that every time you do a cranial treatment, they get up and they go like, I feel great. Yeah. It's so amazing. So you can get, you know, smacked in the head and experience, if you got smacked in the left side of your head, you would experience right-sided pain. So if the homunculus is here on the head and this happens to be the thoracic spine or the shoulder and you got hit there, that you're going to feel it there. Yeah. And so it's a shame people will, you know, that these parts will be glowing in the dark from all the electrical stim and ultrasound that they've done, and there'll be no change, but you go up to the cranium and you get a response right away.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, along with cranial, I found that lymphedema is real. A lot of people have swelling in tissues that are causing restrictions, and the
restrictions
the fascia
causing
is
the
causing
swelling.
the restrictions to the lymphatic system. So I worked with both together, and that was.
So in other words, if you got a patient who came in with a swollen leg, and you happened to notice that one pelvis was anterior and one pelvis was posterior, you would know that as long as that torquing was happening to these little delicate lymphatic vessels, and that the whole pelvic floor was torsion, so now everything that runs through that's supposed to be circular is now oval or rectangular, smashed because things are twisted. So how can things discharge? How can there be an equilibrium? How can there be a homeostasis between what is going in and what's going out?
Right. And a lot of times also the pain that people might feel is because there's retention of the fluid in that area that's restricted, and the lymphatic system is supposed to be cleansing and getting rid of the toxicity or dead cells or whatever is there, and it can't move through. So that becomes, as it decomposes and so forth, it becomes toxic and causes the pain. So
the treatment techniques dovetail. So people will say to me, well, what are you doing right now? Is that myofascial or is that craniosacral? And it's like, I'll move so quickly from one to another, it'll be like, well, that was myofascial, but now I'm feeling, and you can actually feel, in the body when you touch them. You can feel when you go from lymph to the craniosacral rhythm to I'm engaged in the fascia. I'm back to the rhythm, back to the fascia. Now I'm affecting the lymph. And it's so fun when you can feel that. Now at first you're like this. It's like, you know, when you're athletic training, they would say, ligament is a grade 3, looseness is grade 2, grade 1. Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah, I can feel it. You feel about 150 of them before you get it. You know what I mean? You're like, I think I got it. I think I feel it. But you can really, I tell you, when you, all of a sudden you become aware that you're feeling it, like everything that I would teach you, you already know it. You've probably already even done it. All I'm going to do is give you like confidence to really go out there and do it and not be afraid. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. So, how many minutes do we have left?
We're right down to the wire.
We have 10 minutes left or 8?
No, we're going to do the meditation now.
Okay. Oh, perfect. We're actually 1 minute ahead of schedule. So take that minute to get yourself comfy. The meditation that we're going to do right now is going to be an energetic perspective, but it will more than likely have a physiological effect on you. So just be aware and allow, be open and surrender. Give yourself permission to let energy move through you, to let go. That there's nothing to understand, there's nothing to digest, there's nothing to process, there's nothing to remember or memorize or close your eyes and breathe deep into your belly. I want you to imagine for a moment that you're a bowl full of Jell-O, and that this wonderful, masterful creator that we have has created this vessel of Jell-O, which is technically your fascia. And then our God making a human salad, Jell-O salad, that instead of grapes came in the bones. Instead of the flaked coconut came in your nervous system, and instead of the crushed walnuts, there's your circulatory system. So everything rests in this Jell-O. Everything is supported by this Jell-O. It's all held together by the Jell-O, and yet at the same exact time, everything is separated by the Jell-O. Your fascia contains in it microtubules of light. They have proven that recently, an electron microscope. So that if we were to close our eyes and cover our ears and cross our legs and pinch our nose and make it that there's no way for light to come from the outside world into our physical being, know that we have light in there all by itself. It doesn't come from outside in. It lives, the light lives within us. Now, of course, if you have fascial restrictions and you have rotations and things are locked down, or you've hurt a limb and you've labeled it the bad leg, and this kind of thing, the light may not be so vibrant in that area. You might have dark places. But right now, we're going to take command of the light because it lets us, and it likes it when we do that, and that's what it's there for. So we make a request or a command of light as a being. So right this moment, we're going to say to the light, light, come into me. You can come in through the top of my head, and you can use my spinal canal, my prana. You can pour in that way. You can pour in through my breath. Of course, if you come into my lungs, you're going to come in contact with my blood. And my blood is going to come in contact with my muscle cells, and one muscle cell connects to 4, and those 4 connect to 16 and 36. And so every time I breathe in, or every time light pours into me, whatever cells that it touches, those cells are going to gift it to more cells until There is no place in my entire body that is not light. My eyelashes are light. My fingernails are light. My ureters are light. My skin is light. My gallbladder is light. My pancreas is being filled with light. My heart is absolutely bursting with light. My brain is just pulsating light. In fact, there's so much light in my being that light is streaming out of my fingertips and out of my toes and out of the top of my head. In fact, my light is so bright that if I even walk by someone or I even look at them, my light is shared with them and I increase the light in them. In fact, I have so much light in me that when I walk, the light pours from me into the earth, into this building. The light is filling the room. In fact, the light is so bright that it's beginning to radiate from the building, refracting off of trees and other buildings, and is now starting a journey around the world. And you are so filled with light that that light is ejecting from your being anything that's not light. I want you to point specific light to any places that you think are having a hard time receiving. I want you to pour like a laser light into any places that you have had pain or dysfunction. Pour light into the corpus callosum of your brain. Connect your right and your left hemispheres. Allow them to work in harmony. Allow them to be able to express equally. I want you to feel the light dispersed so equally all over your body that you're as much aware of your toenails and your toes as you are of your forehead. I want you to feel that light moving in waves up and down your body and up and down your arms and legs, touching every place. Maybe even touching places you don't touch, that you forget about, or that you've walled off. Invite the light to penetrate every place and space. I'd like you to request of your emotional bodies. We have our physical body, and then we have energy bodies around us, mental, etheric, and emotional. I want you to ask your emotions. I want you to pull your emotions in. Pull the emotions into the surface of your skin. Be with your emotion, embrace your emotions, love your emotions, but pull them into your beingness. Offer gratitude for your life and your breath right now. Be grateful that you are on the planet today. With beautiful healing intentions for yourself and anyone you know or come in contact with that's in need. And I'd like you to bring your awareness now to just above your head. I want you to imagine that you can look down upon yourself. You're looking down and you see the top of your head, your shoulders, your knees and feet. And then I'd like you to take your awareness just above the ceiling outside of this room. So you're looking down on this entire room and all the people in it. Then we're going to take our awareness higher yet above the building. And I'd like you to look down and see that view, and look down and see the building. And you start to take your awareness higher so that you're seeing the campus. And higher again to where you're starting to see the interstate, the city lights. And your awareness is going higher yet, so that you start to see continents. Take your awareness higher yet, that you can see the earth as a sphere in the distance, and you start to see other celestial planets and stars. And I want you to allow yourself to go higher yet, past the Milky Way, past the galaxies, farther, farther. Take your awareness into that space where there's nothing and everything. I would like you to enter the void with full awareness. In the void, in the womb of creation, there everything is perfection. Your divine blueprint is there, and every bit of perfection that you were born with, I'd like you to access your divine blueprint. Request of it. My divine blueprint, my perfection, I'm asking you to come with me back into my body. If there's a particular body part, then you can say you would like the blueprint of your heart, or your ankle, or your brain. You can ask specifically for that. And I would like you to thank you for receiving it, and start to bring yourself now with your perfection. I want you to start to gently come back to where you're starting to see stars and galaxies. And you're going to bring yourself closer to Earth, where you can start to see the Earth. And closer again where you see the continents. And closer to where you start to see the highways. And you locate the campus and the building that we're in. And the room that we're in. And then you locate your body. And you come back in with access to your perfection and your divine blueprint. And you reconnect your perfection to your entire being or specific organs, whichever you need in this moment. I want you to take time now to be aware of your heart. There's more neurons in your heart than your brain. Allow your brain and your heart to merge. Feel your heart expand. Feel that authentic, unbridled love for life. Take an opportunity to fill yourself with love for yourself. To fill yourself, every aspect of your being. Love imagine that you are stroking your hair and your face and your throat and all parts of your body. Imagine that you're just stroking like You're your own mini you, your baby. Imagine you're being rocked and held and kissed and loved. I want you to make a connection with your soul. Imagine that your soul is a shimmery mist. I would like you to invite it to come completely into your body through your breath, into your belly, and with each breath your soul expands. It begins to penetrate again every single cell the same way as your breath and the light did. I want you to imagine your soul filling in right behind the light every single space, nook, cranny, socket. Fill yourself. Become love. Love is the most healing tool that you have. Give yourself the gift of love and light. Feel your heart just expanding as it welcomes your soul fully into your body. If your soul is at a car accident scene, or your soul is tiny, teeny in your heart, deep in your heart, if your soul is kind of a witness outside your body, you're vulnerable. But when your soul is fully, when your body is immersed in your soul like that jello, your intuition is on. Every little cell has its soul cell. Your connection is very clear to source. And some people may have to remind themselves to embody their soul several times a day if you have become experienced at allowing it to leave. Tell your soul now, my body is safe. I have created this loving place for you. And I'm so happy that you're here with me. You're my best friend in the whole wide world. And I'm sorry I forget about you all the time. I'm not going to do that anymore. I need you. I love you. Life is going to be so much more fun because, you know, when I feed you, soul, and I dance with you, soul, and I allow you to guide my thoughts, my actions, my decisions, they're always so much better. And you know, soul, when I play with you, it's always just love. You let me do all the things that make my heart pitter-patter. Let's do this dance together. And you know what? Let's see all of our clients as souls. Let's remember that they're all souls too. They're not knees and backs and legs. They're not just bodies. And you know what, soul? Can we remember to ask their soul permission to work with them? And can we ask the soul to help us? Soul, will you remember to ask their soul to help my physical body help their physical body? So, can I remember, please, to talk to you lots? Can I never forget you again? So forgive me. Yes, you'll forgive me. You're the master of forgiveness. Yes, soul, you'll forgive me for having forgotten you all this time. So, soul, my intention is to do my work soulfully and to do it from my heart. And to take good care of myself by every morning filling myself with love and light first, so that there's so much of it. I have so much to give to everyone else. I don't need any more. I don't feel resentment because my cup is not full. My cup is full now and always will be. In fact, my cup is so full, all I have to do forever is serve and share. Oh my gosh, all I had to do was remember that, so please don't let me forget it ever. I love you, soul. And I love all the souls that are souls because after all, if I remember from Avatar, we're all one. Take a deep, deep, deep breath. take a moment to embody 150% your authentic self. And with that, you go forward and you do your healing work. From that place, you be in relationship, whether it's with someone who's 7 years old or someone who's 70. Whether it's someone you're the authority figure or it's someone who's an authority figure over you. Same, doesn't matter, all the same love. And if you can imagine for a moment that you could love anything as much as you love your child, this is the way you're going to love your clients and yourself. Once you're aware of how powerful that is. And when you're ready, and you open your eyes, and even when you're so ready that you get up out of your chair and you move, you're going to do it with this same awareness. When you stand up, your soul is going to stand up. When you open your eyes, your soul is opening your eyes. When you eat a piece of chocolate, you're feeding it to your soul. Not the physical body that just wants to chomp it down real quick and grab another piece before someone gets that last favorite one. And if anybody wants to share at all how they feel right this moment compared to before their meditation, you can, with your soul, even say one word, or you don't even have to raise your hand. You can just say if there's something you feel. Are you speaking French to me? No, how could that happen? Yay. For free. Tingles for free. Just breathe. Just invite your soul in, huh? Does anybody feel like that you might leave this room with just something a little bit more to add to your interactions? I didn't get to find out exactly what you guys are doing that or touching people, but do you feel anything that you learned tonight might enhance it a little bit?
Yes.
Just maybe we might have changed a little tiny bit away that maybe the brain will receive information from your client and may deliver to them. Or I hope that maybe we'll hear stories in the future about some even, life changes that might happen from remembering that you have a soul and that love and light are your most powerful tools. And we're going to end with that.
Thank you so much.
They're welcome very much. Thank you for coming tonight. Yep, you know right what we're talking about.